Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast, episode 87. Joining me this week, we got the one, the only, the fabulous, the amazing. We got a Mr. Everest Arcanized joining us today. Everest, how's it going?
What's up? Happy to be here. Happy to be back. It's been a while. Had to make the schedules work for this epic crossover event here. Thanks for having me on, and I'm super excited to be here, man.
Thank you for being here. I see your Barbieheimer shirt there. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Where does one get one of those?
This
That's sick as hell.
I have no idea. My dad got it from me. I think he just saw it on like Amazon or like some like online site, and it was like, my son would love that, and he was right. I'm rocking it, dude. This is awesome.
Hell yeah.
It's got like Barbie with like the explosion in the back on it. So cool.
Everyone loves a good Barbieheimer shirt. I love it. Thanks for being here. Obviously, there's no Connor this week. He heard that you were coming on. He's like, I gotta get out of here. I can't be there.
Scared of me, bro. He's scared of me. Connor, it's okay. I don't bite.
He's not gonna hurt you. No, it's great. It's great to have you back. It's been a minute. It's always I always think it's very fun having you on because our interests definitely have like collided at a certain point. Like there was a point where we were very much into the same things, and then at one point we kind of went in different directions. I think that's really awesome. But it's always very interesting. Like, all right, what can we end up talking about within these episodes? And we're just gonna have fun, just kind of later on inside of our show, talking about some of our favorite things of the year so far. It's already towards the end of May, halfway through the month of May. We're already halfway through 2024, just about halfway through 2024, which is insane. So I thought it'd be a fun time to kind of to kind of dive into some of our favorite things. Because like by the end of the year, and we usually like to do like an end of the year favorite things the whole year and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of things get lost in that, like especially those early projects where it's like, wait, what came out in March? What came out in April? So we get a chance to talk about some of these early movies. But yeah, we kind of like to start our shows by just talking about things we watched throughout the week. If it's like a video game, a movie, a TV show, a comic, an audiobook. Was there anything this week, or I guess in the last 6 months, I guess, that you've seen that you would like to shout out or like talk about just really quickly?
I guess recently, as I pull up my Letterboxd here to remember what I've been watching. I rewatched Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes recently, with the new one coming out and everything. My parents hadn't seen either of them, and so I did kind of skip Rise, which I know is weird. I do like Rise as well. I think it's a good movie, but I feel like with how that trilogy works, you can kind of just jump in at Dawn if you've already seen them before and be fine. So I watched those two with my parents. They both really enjoyed them. My mom and I saw The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in theaters last week, which not a great movie, but definitely a super fun time at the theaters. Just really enjoyable. And then my mom and I think it was her first time watching it all the way through, and my second time. We watched Interstellar, Christopher Nolan recently as well. And then as far as TV goes and stuff, Daren knows, I've been watching The West Wing for like the past year, like on again, off again. I finally finished season 2 of that show.
Hell yeah.
So I've only got 5 more to go. We'll see if I make it there, but season 2 was awesome. I've really enjoyed The West Wing. It's just a show that you can kind of pick up whenever you want. I feel like and not feel like you've lost too much, which is really cool. And then I've been making my way through the Fallout TV show on Prime, which I think is really good. And I guess that's about it for me. But what about you, man?
I know. I mean, we watched some. I did finish like the Planet of the Apes, like the modern movies, for the first time over the last week or so. Like, Tuesday.
You've been talking about that.
Yeah, on Monday I finished War, and then Tuesday I went to see a new one, which we may or may not talk about later on in the stream. But no, I like it's one of those movies where it's like everyone says they're the greatest thing to ever exist ever, and I watch them like, yeah, they're pretty freaking awesome. Like it's kind of fun to like everyone says it's great, and they were great. Like there's no kind of in between there. Like they're just great sets of movies, and I'm very much into like the like apocalypse type projects, and it's a very like different kind of apocalypse type project, but like when you
Yeah.
look at it, it's like, yeah, it's about the end of the world and how
Mm-hmm.
civilization has changed like humanity forever in a very interesting way. And that was really fun to kind of go through those movies for the first time. Walking Dead, I mean, me and Connor on here talk every week, but I'm gearing the end of season 10. I'm about to be done with the whole show.
Dang,
I got
that's
one more.
crazy.
And then like 57 spin-offs or whatever the heck they got going
Right,
on.
yeah, Fear the Walking Dead and whatever The Walking Dead, and oh my god.
Yeah, they've
dude.
done
Connor,
3 since the show ended. They've done 3 of them, and there's more coming. It's like, all right, they got a lot going on over there. But
Connor mentions a new spin-off to me like every week, it feels like, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's been a journey for that one. And obviously, like, there's a lot of like these live shows. Like X-Men just wrapped up their first season, and
Right,
that's been like my favorite thing to ever exist ever. Like, it's been so good, and it ended very strongly, so that's fun.
That's great. I was gonna ask you, do you think, can I watch the new show without seeing the animated series, like the old one, or should I watch that first? Like, what do you think? Because I never watched the old animated series.
Sure, no, that's fine. Like, because I've answered this quite a bit. Like, people were like, oh, can I just jump into this one? I think you can. Like, I think they do a really good job at, like, obviously there's some tie-ins, like, with how the original show ended and stuff like that, but they explain it in a way where obviously it's going to please the old people, so it doesn't feel like they're brushing that over, but it's like, it reintroduces it to, like, this entire new audience, where I feel like not only do you not have to see the original, I feel like you don't even have to see any X-Men projects prior to this. Like, this, I feel like this is a great, like, first project for X-Men fans. So yeah, like, obviously I think you may enjoy it if you get all like the little Easter eggs and stuff from the classic show, but you definitely don't need to. It's just like having like 5 seasons worth of characters that you already love just kind of getting translated into this new world. So yeah, you definitely can if that's something you're interested in.
All right, sweet. I might have to check it out with how much you've praised it.
I hope I haven't praised it too much. Like, honestly, I would check out the first 2 episodes. Like, I think if it's like, if you watch the first 2 and you're like, it's not for me, then fair enough. But I think the first 2 kind of sell the show in a really unique way about just like, what is this new era of the show about? Yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, I did finish Dune. I did watch Dune Part 2 the other day. Which we may also talk about later, but like,
maybe
I don't know. We'll talk about that then, though. But yeah, we're gonna be jumping into today's episode. We got a couple of news stories today. One, you gave me criticism for it the other day, and you called me out on your podcast about Batman: The Caped Crusader. Batman: The Caped Crusader drops its first look along with an August 1st release date. Now you're a big Batman guy. You like the Batman.
Oh, yeah.
You like Bruce Wayne and all the things that go into the Batman itself. Now this is a show we've been waiting for the show for a very long time. Like, it's quite interesting because like they had announced this and the Superman show around the same time. Like, they were supposed to be like, oh yeah, like the future of action cartoons over on Cartoon Network like 3.5 or so years ago. And Superman came out about a year ago. It's about to air its 2nd season. We're about to get all of season 1 and 2 before this even comes out. But we're finally getting something official on it. I mean, what's your kind of opinion on like the show as a whole? These photos we've got. How are you feeling about like the look of the show so far?
I mean, it looks unique from most of the Batman animated series that we've gotten. Up to this point, which I think could go either way for me. I know I was really excited for this show when it got announced, which, like you were talking about, was so long ago. I think it was before the Batman like even came out. Was they announced this show and they were hyping it up. I know it went through some creative and like development stuff, but it's good to be finally getting it. Our last like true Batman animated series that went for more than just like a short season was Batman the Brave and the Bold, which was airing in like the late 2000s, early 2010.
Yeah.
So it's going to be so cool to get something like this again. As far as like the look and the vibe, I know they announced, and you can tell from the pictures, they're going for a more like old school 40s, like golden age Batman. Not even golden age, but like that really like classic period of superhero comics is kind of what they're trying to capture
Mm-hmm.
with this and this Batman mythos, at least from what I'm understanding. I think it was announced there's going to be like very little technology that he has in the show. And I'm in a sort of wait and see mode. I'm definitely going to watch it as far as I'm such a big Batman fan and it's new content for us. But I definitely do align more with the, I guess, more modern versions of the character as a whole. So I'm a little curious to see what they're going to do with this, but definitely excited.
For sure. Yeah, I think I definitely think it being set in the 40s is a very interesting prospect, because I think we're at a point with like superhero stuff, and I think you could probably attest to this. I feel like there's so much superhero stuff coming out from every single studio. Like Marvel's putting out like 6 things a year, and now you get the James Gunn stuff and every other thing. Every studio has their superhero stuff. So I think when you are making a superhero project now, it is almost a thing where like, how is yours going to be different than every other show on the market right now? I mean, this year alone, we have a Superman show, a Black Panther show, an X-Men show. Like everyone has their own version of this. So I do think the idea of having it like set in the 40s, a world without technology, without the things we kind of know modern Batman for being, is going to be very interesting. And I do kind of like the prospect of like, he's going to have to like rely on who Batman is at his core. Like what makes Batman without all the tech, without all the technologies, without the fancy cars and gadgets and stuff. So I definitely find that prospect to be very fascinating. I'm excited to see kind of what they have to offer, for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I do think that in a lot of like, I guess just general fans, like for them, a lot of Batman is like the cool Batmobile and the the crazy gadgets that he uses and stuff, and like super high tech suits and everything. So it will be really interesting to see how both like hardcore Batman fans and maybe just general audiences respond to like a stripped back version of the character.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's gonna be really interesting, and I think like animation just as a whole is like, I think it's coming back in a really cool way, like in the superhero spirit. Like I felt like it was such a staple for like the 2000s and like and the 90s, of course, like with all the great shows that were out in the 90s, and it feels like through like the 2010s we kind of took a break from a lot of these mainstream like animated stuff, or the stuff that was coming out. A lot of people haven't loved, like with the DC movies and stuff like that. But I think again, like this year with Batman, with Superman, with Black Panther, with Spider-Man, like all of these shows kind of getting their own animated shows. And I think Spider-Verse, obviously, I think has been a big help to a lot of these things. People being like, oh yeah, this media, it's great for telling superhero stories. So I think that's interesting. I also think it's interesting that it's Amazon. I think Amazon has become like the king of superhero TV. Like you have The Boys and you have Invincible and you have The Tick or whatever that is.
The Tick,
yeah. So I feel like and I think there's a couple other like they're doing like the live action Spider-Man show, like the Spider-Man Noir and the Silk show as well. So it seems like they become like the new home for everything superhero, which is kind of interesting for sure. Yeah, do you have any final thoughts on this, or do you want to move on?
No, I think we can move on if you're ready. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm glad we finally got a release date. It took too long.
It's nice to be like it's here, and again, like it was canceled at one point. Like Warner Brothers were selling them. They're like, yeah, we don't want this. It's like, it's Batman. Why wouldn't you want this? It's a like predecessor to like the animated series, which people say is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, I don't know. It was a weird choice. MCU news. I know you're not as into like the MCU space anymore, but Ralph Ineson, I hope I did not butcher that name, has been cast in an upcoming Fantastic Four film as Galactus. Now, obviously, the MCU's Fantastic Four is currently slated for July of 2025. We're now really starting to get a lot of the casting info and kind of plot leaks and stuff on what the movie could be. Now, I know you're not as into like the MCU as maybe you once were. Have you at all been kind of keeping up with like what Fantastic Four is doing? Are you at all excited for the MCU's Fantastic Four?
I've kept up with what they're doing just because I still have like a lot of people in like circles on Twitter that will bring it up and talk about it. And I will see it. Like, I think I'd have to
Mhm.
still have another dramatic, like, turn in terms of stepping away from superhero content to
Yeah.
not see Fantastic Four. I wouldn't say I'm, like, counting down the days or super pumped or anything, but I do think it's a really, interesting and important chance for Marvel to sort
Yeah.
of, like, jumpstart a new level of interest, a new, like, era here, as a lot of it has, I mean, regardless of quality of the films, because there still have been some films they put out that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Overall, like, storyline and the universe has just felt a bit jumbled since Endgame, which, I mean, fair point. Endgame kind of ended everything. It tied everything up, so it's like
Yeah.
hard where you're gonna go. But I think Fantastic Four presents a really great opportunity.
Mhm.
I don't know a ton about the actor that they've cast here. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen him in some stuff. I know he was involved in the Harry Potter movies.
Sure.
He worked with Robert Eggers a little bit, but from the support for him that I've seen online after this
Mm.
casting has come out, I think it's a good choice, at least from what I can say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm hoping the movie's good.
Yeah, no, I didn't know much about the actor prior to this casting, but just like people been posting like his talking voice and how like deep and like gravitas it is, and it's like, yeah, that sounds like what Galactus would probably sound like, and I think that just a cast as a whole for this movie, like every casting that's come out, it's like, oh yeah, you're a really good actor, you've like won awards and you've been in a lot of great movies, and it seems like I don't know, like for a while I lost interest in the Fantastic Four movie because it was just like each week being like, I guess there's another rumor like Reed Richards for like the tenth
John
thousandth time.
Krasinski, like, oh my god, yeah.
It was like 2.5 to 3 years of like, I don't know, this is coming out someday, and it feels like over the last 4 or 5 months are finally like, oh yeah, this movie's happening. Like we have our cast, we have our writers, we have like the rumors about like being set in like the 50s or whatever it may be, and all these kind of things that I think like as it's kind of like coming together has made me a lot more interested to be like, all right, it's like we have the posters and stuff, like it's on the way finally. As far
Yeah.
as like sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, you go. I was
Okay,
just agreeing with you.
okay, cool. Like I think just like Galactus as a whole though, I think is very interesting because like a couple years like after Endgame, if you said like he's coming in the next couple phases, I'd be like, no, he's not. That's no, of course Galactus isn't coming. They can't do Galactus or whatever. And I think a lot has definitely changed in terms of the hype for Galactus, and I think the idea, like the rumor that Fantastic Four will be set on another Earth, and then by the end of the movie they kind of come over to our Earth. Like I think that prospect would make sense to me. But like, oh, maybe he eats their Earth and he stays over there, and then they travel over here, so we don't have to deal with like the Galactus like entity while we're dealing with Kang or whatever the heck we're going to be dealing with in the upcoming Avengers movies. Um, but no, I think it'll be interesting for sure. I'm going to be curious, like him as a character. Is that like a character that you've loved in like other things? Like, is he a villain you like?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if Galactus is a character that's like anybody's favorite villain, just
Yeah,
because he is so like large in scope and is
yeah,
generally only used for these big groups
mm,
to come against. I mean, I remember fighting him in like the Lego Marvel Superheroes game, um,
yeah,
which was pretty hype. Final boss battle went hard.
mhm,
Um, I definitely think he's intimidating. Like, he is a threat. The fact that he's called the Devourer of Planets is just
yeah,
cool. I mean, that's sick. Um, but I will be really curious. Obviously, he's been like versions of him have been in like old Fantastic Four movies. They haven't been very good.
giant
Um,
cloud. Yeah,
Giant Cloud. I think it's gonna be a hard character to pull off,
mhm,
particularly with the fact that he's such a massive threat in most of the
yeah,
comics. And so, like you were talking about, how do they deal with that with bringing him into a Fantastic Four movie without him
mhm,
feeling like, oh my god, the entire like universe and the
yeah,
Avengers roster needs to come together right now.
mhm,
Um, so I do think maybe setting it back in time on a different Earth, something like that, could be really
yeah,
interesting, especially because Marvel's done a lot with the multiverse and
yeah,
stuff in recent years. Um, But I am intrigued. I'm a little curious, like, them doing him first movie, Fantastic Four, like, are they still planning on doing Doom? Like,
Sure.
what's exactly gonna happen? And I think Galactus is just a character that is tough to really create, like, layers with
Yeah.
and, like, a different, like, level of understanding with the audience, whereas, like, Thanos, they did such a good job of that in
Yeah.
Infinity War. Um, and so it'll be interesting, but I'm definitely not opposed. He's a big threat, and if they can pull it off right, I think it'll be super cool.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like because I think that was always my prospect with him. I was like, I don't want him as like the big bad of a phase because I do think that's not very interesting. Like I think the movie that he would be like if it's like a solo Avengers movie. Oh yeah, that's cool because they could just all come together or whatever. But like I never liked the idea of him being like the next Thanos or like the next Kang or whatever it may be. My only kind of concern with this is I think just because of what happened with Ant-Man and how they use Kang there that and I'm not sure if you had seen that movie or not, but I think how they I don't think they did a good job at making a villain so powerful for an Ant-Man movie really worked for me. And they're like, oh yeah, he beat
Mm.
Kang, and it's like, but should he have that? Like I don't really feel the threat now that he's supposed to be our next big bad, but he just got beat by Ant-Man. Like I don't that was a thing I
Yeah,
wasn't a huge fan of. Um but no, I'm excited that he's cast. I'm excited he's coming. I'm excited for this movie for the most part. I just hope it's good.
yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah, speaking of things that are good, The Boys has been given an early season 5 renewal weeks ahead of the season 4 premiere. Now you're a fan of The Boys, correct? Is this a show that you still watch or you're still a fan of?
Yeah, I haven't seen Gen V yet, which I need to
Okay.
get on, but I have seen all of The Boys up till this point. I do really like it. It's a little surprising to me given just the nature of the show and where we're at. I guess just
Mm,
jumping right into my thoughts that we're already getting nope, there's gonna be a season 5. Um,
yeah.
to me it just feels like it felt like a 4 to 5 season show was kind
Yeah.
of its max, which obviously maybe season 5 is intending to be the final one.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I love this show, but I do feel like, and I've talked about this with other people, like our friend Braden is a huge
Yeah.
Boys fan as well. I know Connor's a big fan too, but it does feel like it's gotten a little stagnant to points
Mm,
where it's like
sure.
we need a little more development. Something's got to happen with Homelander. Like
Yeah.
we've just gone too far with too little happening in the grand scope of the story.
Yeah.
And again, I still really like the show. I think its pros far outweigh its cons, but um, I'll be watching season 4. I just question like how much more it has to give
Yeah.
at its current pace.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Like, I loved it. It's tough because it's like they've put out 4 seasons, like, or I guess technically 5 seasons, like within the world with Gen V and the Boys and the anime thing, whatever. And it's tough because I have thoroughly loved all the seasons that they put out throughout the shows. Like, I thought Gen V was great and stuff like that. But it is, I do just kind of have to ask, like, where is it all going? Like Homelander is
Mhm.
one where I got like one more season left of Homelander. As much as I love him, as much I think he's the best part of the show, it's like, but how much
Oh yeah,
more can you do with it? Like, how much can you do? And I think you have the Boys seasons 4 and 5 coming, which I assume will both have Homelander in it because I think it'd be hard to like diverge from Homelander. Like, I think that'd be a hard transition for people. You have Gen V season 2
yeah,
coming. You have the Boys Mexico, which is like another spinoff that they're doing, which I kind of think that's a weird choice myself. So it's like, where is it all leading to? Is Homelander still going to be at the front and center? And again, if they can like diverge that and like, I think the show needs a change. Like I think after season 4, there needs to be something that happens that like changes the status quo of everything. And
yeah,
can you do that without Homelander? Because they do it in the comics, I think you technically could. It's just you have to find someone that has like the same energy level and like iconicness as Homelander, which may be hard. I'm not sure.
yeah. It's tricky, particularly with them just announcing a season 5 like early ahead of time leads me
Yeah,
to believe like they're thinking further than 5 seasons.
yeah,
Um, like I feel like they would have gone about it a little differently if they were like intending season 5 to be the last one. And so in that case, it does give you space to pivot off him if you would like. I feel like
Yeah.
if they ride Homelander all the way out through the end, they're gonna have to get more creative with
Yeah.
just their writing and development of these
Yeah.
stories, because I guess my experience with The Boys, especially in season 3, was like it's all really good, but it's like kind of stuck. It's like the same really good loop that they just keep going through over and over again. And not that I'm like not enjoying it anymore, but like you said, I think something's got to change in order for it to keep its status as one of the best shows on television, which
Yeah.
I believe that it has been for the years that it's been running.
I agree. I think like an ideal world for me would have been like you wrap up either season 4 or season 5. Like maybe you end season 4 with like him going like off the rails crazy, and 5 is like God, like Wrath of God, Homelander kind of thing. And then after that, you kind of focus on Gen V, because I love Gen V. Like I thought I kind of like Gen V a little bit more than The Boys, just in terms of like the characters are very likable over there, which I love the characters in The Boys, but like they all suck in terms of like people. They you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they're not good people, right?
Yeah, we're here. They're like college students, and they're really fun to watch and stuff like that. So like, if you wanted after that, you could do Gen V, and then you could do The Boys Mexico, which again we don't even know what that's even going to be about or whatever. Like, is it just the boys in Mexico? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting. But no, I'm excited. Season 4 comes out next week, which no, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Like it's in a couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks still, but getting close.
Yeah, we have a couple weeks. I'm excited. And then our final story here, an interesting one for sure. Streaming services. We all love them. We all know them. 2 new streaming bundles have been announced this week, combining several different streaming services. So this is kind of interesting. Now, I'm not like we don't normally talk about like streaming and business stuff on the channel. I'm not good at that kind of stuff, but I did think it was a very interesting conversation to have. Obviously, the one being the like Disney Plus and Hulu thing has already happened, been like that for a couple months now, and they're now going to be creating a bundle with Max, or other known HBO Max, and then on the other side, Netflix is pairing with Peacock and Apple TV. And there's been a big conversation about like, is cable just back at this point? Are we back where we started? What's your kind of opinion on this? Where are you happy about these bundles? Are you confused? Where are you at?
I think it'll be good if the price is reasonable and they figure out the like user face well for this, because I think it could be confusing having all like 3 completely separate streaming services all together. Also with the Disney Plus Hulu Max one, I think it's a little interesting considering Max is like Warner Bros. Discovery, and Disney and Warner Bros. Seemed like to be like very competing like companies in the entertainment world. I feel like WB and Disney have always been like butting heads, and so to like team up for their streaming services is definitely interesting. I don't know if it's cable coming back. I think we have realized that like streaming services as they've been going might be unsustainable with just so many of them. Like everything has 1 or 2 shows that like everybody watches, and then they just keep like hiking the prices up. So I think this can be a good thing, but I also do think it's a little bit ridiculous just to have like all like bundles and it's all these different ones together. I don't really know how it's going to work. Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts right now just because it feels so weird and like new. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the first one was the one, I think like the Max and Disney one was the one that was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like those 2 very separate companies kind of thing, kind of colliding. It's very interesting. Like you'll have like Disney and or like you have DC and Marvel in the same place. You'll have like Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny in the same place. Like so many of these like contracting brands kind of clashing. It's gonna be weird to you know check out like the newest MCU show and the newest DCU show at the same place at the same time type thing. So
yeah,
it's definitely going to be an interesting one. I think you know, this is a track we've been following for a while. It's like, okay, yeah, we see where this is going. We're going to see if the streamers are either going to have to merge or shut down. I think the Netflix one's interesting because, like, out of that Netflix bundle, Netflix is the only one I currently have. Like, I don't have Peacock. I don't have Apple TV. I honestly don't know many people who do have Peacock. Like, I feel like it's that one that, like, maybe 1 in 5 people have or whatever, for, like, the whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think more people started to, like, I feel like Peacock did get a boost from putting, like, the NFL games and, like, some of their sports that they have on there. Like, they streamed an NFL wildcard game exclusively on Peacock, and as well as some, like, exclusive basketball stuff. So they are getting benefits from, like, the sports. But yeah, as far as like streaming content and like movies and TV, I don't know that many people who just have Peacock.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. I also do think, as far as like original content, this actually might help Disney and Max, because I think like by themselves neither have like the best original stuff constantly coming out. Like, I think Disney's getting better, but like prior to this year, I feel like Disney Plus didn't have any like, oh yeah, Disney Plus, the home of whatever the top TV show was. Like, now they're getting stuff like Percy Jackson and X-Men, and some of these bigger shows are coming out over there. And Max is so new, I feel like they haven't had any time to get any kind of new originals. Like, we got the Dune show coming, we have the Penguin show coming, but like up until this point, like, what does Max have right now? I don't know. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how. And again, like you mentioned, like, I think price is going to be a big thing. Is it like $50 for a bundle? It's like, whoa, or whatever it may be,
Yeah, for sure. They're gonna have to figure that out. It's a good point with like Disney Plus and Max. I mean, I think the big selling point for Max is it's like you get the HBO stuff in there, which can help out. But yeah, I don't know. I think price is going to be really important, and I think it's just going to be like, are people going to buy into these massive streaming bundles? Like, how are you going to sell it to people? Are you going to go like, oh, it's kind of like cable where you'd have all your different stuff packaged into one thing? And then I also think, like, what is the future of this? Like, then is there a merger in the future where all 6 of them come together, And
so then that basically where like you pick and choose what things you want on there. Like, oh, you don't want to spend $200 and don't get Apple TV or whatever type thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's even the aspect, like, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but like Disney Plus is now doing like actual cable channels on their network where like they will have like things for like their certain brands. You can watch like a freaking Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever, and then you have like a MCU channel or whatever. They haven't said what they're going to be yet, but I assume they'll have like Disney Channel, and they'll have like, I don't know, whatever it may be, like Max. If it's merged with Max, maybe they'll have like a Harry Potter channel. Like, I don't know what all they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
There, but it's definitely very interesting to see like the like evolution of streaming and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that being said, we're going to be jumping into our main topic here. Again, favorite projects of 2024. I feel like it's been like a good like start to the year. Like, I feel like we've had like a lot of like big stuff happening at the beginning of the year, and we haven't even gotten to like blockbuster season or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I was just talking to Braden about that on our podcast, The Giggly Gorillas. The last episode we recorded is like, it's been a really good start to the year. Like, big time movies have come out. I feel like there have been shows that people have been talking about. And like you said, we're just getting into the heart of like the summer blockbuster movie season, and then we have like award season still at the end in November, December. So it's like, could be a really good year.
I agree. I think we're off to a really good start. Like, even with like the strikes and stuff, like I thought it'd be a much slower kind of start to the year, but I think we've kind of jumped off the pot cooking. So we're gonna be jumping to our first project here, and this one's yours, Love, the one that you wanted to talk about. We got Dune Part 2. What feels like the movie of the year so far. Like, this feels like the film everyone's like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is the thing that everyone loves. So what's your kind of opinion on Dune Part 2?
So I guess a little backstory, like, before this movie came out, I was in, a similar boat to, I think, like you and a lot of other people I've talked to, where I'm not a huge fan of Dune Part 1. I think there's some really interesting stuff. I think technically it's a really well-made film. But it was just a little hard to get into. It was
Yeah.
boring and a little disengaging, I thought, and I didn't really know if this franchise was gonna be for me. And then I started like, the promotions for Dune Part 2 came out, and then the
It looks
hype
great.
around it started buzzing, and I got really excited, and so I saw it, in theaters, and I personally just love this movie. I was
Yeah.
floored by how much I was able to get into it compared to the first one. I think it's a lot of the, like, some of the spectacle and the world building and the, technical prowess of the first one, but just up the ante. There's more action. The plot's more engaging to me, and I do think that this is the movie of the year up to this
Yeah.
point. I think it's going to get a Best Picture nomination at the end of the year. I think it's got great performances, and at least for me, such a great theater experience. I went back
Yeah.
inside again with like a different group of friends when it was in the theaters. Um, yeah, I just love it, and I'm a little surprised by how much I love it, considering I wasn't a huge fan of the first one. This
Sure.
is my favorite movie of the year so far. It's just got like everything you want, man. It's I don't know, the action is awesome. Um, I really bought into Timothy Chalamet's character and his story more so
Yeah.
than in the first movie this time around, which really helped out. I think Zendaya's excellent.
Yeah.
I love Austin Butler in here as the villain, and this was honestly helped by like I saw everybody talking about this on
Yeah.
social media and on my timeline while it was coming out, and in like the months since it's come out, people still talk about this movie. And so, as I was someone who really enjoyed it, that's just like feeded into
Bye.
kind of
Yeah.
my opinion of it. So yeah, I love Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Part 2. Yeah. No, I mean, I I think that okay, so backstory just a little bit for me. Like, Dune 2 is the only movie I've ever walked out of the theater for,
Which is crazy.
it's so crazy. And now I get to tell that story. Be like, yeah, I walked out of Dune 2. Whatever. It's whatever. No, I just it was one of those days. I was so tired. I was like, I am not paying attention to any of this. But like, I
Yeah.
think like, and I don't think Dune is just my thing. Like, I even like dived back into it this last week. Like, all right, I need to finish this movie. And I think like it is a great movie. Like I don't have any like grievances with the film. Like, I think everything you just said is right. Like, the music, the acting, the look of the movie, the music. Oh my gosh,
that. Yeah.
the music is like one of my favorite scores I've ever heard. Like, it's just always in my head. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
And
it's love it, and I love that they like Zimmer, because the first movie was filled with the one everyone
yeah.
but they don't use that as much in this one. It's used very sparingly and very like timely, and then written into it, they've got a sort of love theme for Zendaya's character, which
Sure.
plays throughout the ending of the movie, which I love that theme. Yeah, I mean, Hans Zimmer's always going to bring it. I think the score is excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. Like, that was easily my favorite part. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, I think I'll just put on the music for Dune, even if I'm not like the biggest Dune fan. And no, yeah, again, the actors, I think Austin Butler is great. I think all the performers in here are just amazing. I just don't think it's like a world that I'm like I feel like I kind of get lost a little bit in kind of like the scope of everything and how big it is. But like, it's probably going to be one of the best movies I see this year, because it's like an excellently made movie. Like, if it won Best Picture next year, I'd be like, yeah, that's valid, because it's really, really good. And yeah, I think they like the scope of how they do everything, and like the size of it. And it does feel like a theater experience. Like, it feels like such like something that you'd want to see on the big screen, with like all the surround sound and the music blaring in your ear and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great. It's just like not necessarily for me, and that's okay.
And that's fair. I mean, obviously I wish you had a different experience with it, as like more similar to what I did, because I love this movie. It's coming on It's dropping on Max soon. I can't wait to show my parents, because they didn't get to see it in theaters, and my dad loves like the Dune books.
Oh wow.
He read the book when he was like younger, and he liked the first one, so I'm sure he's gonna love it. But it happens to, like, I know I've had several movies where everyone loves them and the world they
Yeah,
create, and it's just not for me. And that's part of art, and that's part of like
sure.
being a fan of this stuff and entertainment. Sometimes stuff isn't going to work for you.
Yeah, totally. It's part of the course. But and maybe by the time Dune 3 comes out, I'll be like, oh wait, I actually like this one. I don't know. And they have that like TV show coming out too. I think that's this year. So big year for Dune
Yeah.
fans. Hopefully that's good. All right, my first pick here. It's
All right.
it's a superhero one. I'm so sorry. It's Invincible, the second season of Invincible. Um, yeah, this came out. Okay, so this one's like debatable because it technically started in 2023. It came out in like December or like November of 23. Took like a 4-month break and then came back for its final 4 episodes, which is one of the weirdest like season split ups I've ever seen in my life. Like it was all already
Yeah.
done. It was they were all it's all put together already. Like there wasn't like, oh, we have to finish whatever. No, it was done. They just were like, okay, we're taking it back for Christmas, and then never came back for the final 4 until like March or whatever.
That's crazy.
Which like that's like my criticism of the season. Like it's just that really really stupid break. But besides that, I loved Invincible. Like Invincible is just like I think it's just that show. I think it's like Amazon continuing proving that they have the sauce as far as like the superhero content. I think this season's a lot more. It's not on as big a scale. It's not on as like the superhero like because season 1 was huge. Like people were dying left and right, and people were getting the buildings are coming down, and all that kind of fun stuff. The giant train sequence, but I think season 2 is a lot more personal with the characters, and I think they really kind of set the stage for what is coming in the upcoming seasons. Like they've said the season 3 is like almost every episode is like a final episode of the season. Like every episode is just massive in its scale. If they're going to do that, I'm not sure, but I think season 1 really took the time to be like, season 1 is who is invincible. I think season 1 was like who's invincible. Season 2 is like who's Mark Grayson. Who does Mark Grayson want to be? Who are all these characters in his life, and what are they all building to in a very interesting way, while also doing some really, really cool superhero stuff. And like, not to spoil it, because I'm not sure if you're going to ever come back to the show or anything like that, but like the like grief of what happened to Mark in season 1, like the PTSD and the like, who am I without Omni-Man? Like Invincible was based on the love I had for my father, and now he's gone. So who is Invincible? Who is Mark Grayson? And like trying to figure that journey to figure that out was really, really fun to watch. And again, my only like criticism, I think I'd like it a lot more if it was just like one drop, or like not one drop, but like a weekly drop, like the first one was. Like that giant like mid-season break is like, wait, what even happened? Like that hype was kind of gone in the back half, which was found very, very quickly. Like once we got back into it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's back and it's great. But it was definitely hard to like. That break definitely killed a lot of the hype for people. But no, great season of TV in my opinion.
Yeah, I watched season 1. Pretty sure I got all the way. I'm like 90% sure I got all the way through. I liked it.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a show for me where people I was surrounded by and other people talking about it seemed to just buy into it or like get it more than I did. I thought it was cool and like interesting, and I definitely saw a lot of the things other people loved about it. But I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like some of the animation was weird or threw me off a little bit. But I could never get into it as much as like you did or other people I know too. Because I have other friends like at college that talked about this show as it was coming out, the second season. And I haven't seen it. I'm not opposed to trying to get back into it and check out what season 2 is all about. Especially, I thought you were really beautiful in the way you talked about it there. So I'm happy you enjoyed it, and maybe it'll be something I go back to and get more into. Just for season 1, its impact on me didn't like drive me to watch season 2 yet, at least.
And that's fair. And there's also like a big break like in between seasons 1 and 2. Like there was a large hiatus break. It was like 2 years or whatever without the show, which like is a long time. And like even I was like, wait, what even happened? I had to like revisit the first season to kind of figure out all that. But no, I think someone would definitely enjoy this more on like a binge than as much as I like the weekly. I just think like the break and how it was split up, it works much better as like kind of one viewing, kind of like a movie more than like an 8-month journey or whatever it was.
Mhm.
All right, next up we got Mean Girls. Oh boy.
Oh
First
boy.
big
Yeah.
musical of the year, I suppose.
Yeah, and this was one of my picks, and I wanted to bring it up here not necessarily because I think it's like one of the best things to come out this year, but because I think it's one of the more interesting things to come out and like interesting stories in entertainment this year, because there was so much divisiveness on this
Yeah.
movie. I personally was a person who thought it was fun. Like,
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater, and I actually had a good time with it. It's not a perfect movie. It's not as good as the just standard 2004 Mean Girls, which is a great comedy. Not a musical. This one kind of adapts the Broadway show
Yeah.
that came out. But just in the way there was discourse about how it was marketed, because it wasn't really marketed as a musical, and that kind of fed into like Wonka was similarly
Yeah.
not quite marketed as a musical. Although I think with
Electrical,
Wonka,
yeah.
you could tell from the trailers, if you're a person who watches musicals and stuff, that it gave some of those vibes. But a lot of people didn't like this movie, which
Yeah.
is totally understandable. I think it is weird. Renee Rapp's in it, who's like, at least for our generation, a big like kind
Yeah.
of TikTok like icon right now,
Yeah.
really blowing up. And I just wanted to bring it up because I'm kind of curious your thoughts on like how they're marketing like movies like
Yeah.
this and the fallout of that and what that looks like, especially because we've got like Joker 2 coming out later this year to tie it back into some superhero stuff, which
Yeah.
looks to be more of a musical. That
Yeah.
one, it does feel like they're buying into it and
Yeah.
leaning into it in the trailer and in the marketing. But yeah, I thought this was kind of a super weird movie to come out at the beginning of this
Yeah.
year. I ended up not hating it at all. Like, I thought it was fun enough, but I definitely find it fascinating, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just to talk about like the marketing of it all, like we've talked about that quite a bit on the show, and like I think it's kind of insulting to like the medium of musicals. Like from a marketing standpoint, I understand like, oh, people don't want to see musicals, or that's what they say at least, and like trying to make the best money, whatever. But I think it's just insulting to like the medium of being like, oh, like musicals aren't good enough to make money, so we're not going to tell you it's a musical. Like I think that's insulting. I think some of the biggest like movies in cinema are musicals. Like Disney's whole brand for the longest time was musicals, and I think it's a big part of like that world. I think movies like La La Land and Wicked, like the Wicked movies coming out later this year, they have to market that as a musical, I feel, and they haven't yet, which is kind of strange. But no, it's interesting. Like I think again, Wonka, like I thought Wonka was a musical. I didn't know how much of a musical it was. Like I thought, oh yeah, they're going to have a lot of musical elements because like the original is a musical as well. Like there's a lot of songs in those movies as well. But yeah, no, it's definitely. I'm going to be very curious how they market Wicked, how they market Joker 2. I'm trying to think, is there any other musicals? I guess the Disney stuff like the Mufasa and the Moana is also musicals.
Yeah.
But those are different because I feel like that's Disney's brand. It's like, oh yeah, it's a musical for kids or whatever. So that might be different.
Right. Might be different. Although we didn't really like in the first like teaser for Mufasa, we didn't really get any hints of new music or the songs yet. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But I agree with you that it's insulting to the genre of musicals to not market it as that, because even if people are like, oh well, I just don't like musicals, I'm not going to go see something that's a musical. I saw someone say this. People might not like musicals, but I bet you they also do not like showing up to a movie thinking it's not a musical and then it is a musical.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand the thinking. I think if you're gonna make a musical, which we should still make musicals because they're not for everybody, but I do think there are still people who love them who will turn out to see them. And even if they don't, I think it's one of those things where sometimes we need like great art to just persevere above its commercial value or what studios think it's going to make. Steven Spielberg's West Side Story came out,
so good.
I don't know, 3 years ago, and I thought that movie was incredible. That was my favorite Best Picture nominee of that year. I thought it should have won. Although Coda was really good too, and I think it's a little overhated. But I think that if you're gonna do a musical, which we should, you gotta market it as that, and you gotta take it seriously. And in that sense, hope that people show up. Mean Girls did feel a little like trying to like appeal to both audiences in a way, and some of the stuff was really well done, I thought, and then others were kind of out there and wacky. I thought they leaned into like the sort of sassiness and the just like energy that it should have had. Like it passed the vibe check for me, which is why like I ended up enjoying it, but I definitely think it was kind of problematic in the way they marketed it, and the discourse reflected that. So
there's those like viral like TikToks and stuff of like every time the music starts, just the whole audience booing it, be like, boo, like a whole audience that probably didn't know it was a musical or whatever. And that's not fair to the people not knowing it's a musical, and also just the people who are there for a musical. Like their whole theater is booing every time it's not, like that's not fun for the people who were ready for the musical stuff in the movie. Yeah, no, that's not a fun experience for anyone. I mean, I had a pretty good time with Mean Girls. I think it's one of those, like the Twitter template that's like, what's a movie that's actually good when you don't have like someone inside your ear telling you it's bad. Like I think that's kind of what Mean Girls is. It's fun, like if you go in knowing it's just like, and I think what it felt like to me was the same exact movie that they made before, but they paused in between the segments to make a music video. Like that's kind of what the movie felt like to me. And I think if you know that going in and being like, hey, have fun with that element of just the same movie again, but with music, and hopefully you can have a good time with it.
That's fair. And I also think like it's a little bit disappointing because I've listened to like, I haven't seen it on stage, but the like cast recording for the actual musical is really good. Like the songs are good. They cut a couple songs out for this movie, and I just don't know if that like they feel overproduced to a degree in the film. But a lot of those songs are fun. I think the musical itself was a good idea. Kind of came out in this like there's Heathers the musical, and there's like, so they were trying to do all these musical versions. Like Catch Me If You Can's a musical, which is crazy. So I do wish they executed it a little bit better, but like you were saying, I think if you go in knowing you're the type of person who's okay with like a musical and stuff like this, and just has fun with what they do with it, it's a good time.
Yeah, no, fully. Like I think like everything that was a musical, I had a really good time with. My only issues with the movie kind of came in like the non-musical elements, like weirdly enough. Like I kind of wanted them to be a bit more creative with kind of that side of it, because again, like to me, it felt like the exact same movie that they made before, just with new actors and stuff like that. And I wish they could have been a little bit more creative on that side of things. But like it's still fun. Like I love these new actors. Like I think Regina, like she's great here. Like I think she kills that role here. So it's fun. I think it's a fun movie. I think it's still like my number 3 of the year so far, just because I haven't seen like a lot of. I've been really slacking on a lot of these newer movies, but yeah, it's fun. All right, next up, we actually have another musical here. I have Has Been Hotel from the A24 Amazon series that came out in January. And I think it's still one of my favorite. I think it's like my number 2, number 3 favorite show of the year so far. This was one of those like just surprises, just like come out of nowhere surprises. Now, this originally was a pilot on YouTube about 5 years ago, and since then they were able to get picked up by like A24 and Amazon and make it into a full-fledged TV show. And I think it's just one of like, again, like those out, like not expecting it to come out, and it came out and just kind of blew me away, mainly of just how fun the music was, and how much of a blast that was, and how like weirdly deep its messages was. Because I feel like with a show like this, you can kind of just, it's a fun like animated adult TV show. Like you have a lot of those type of shows every year, but I think they kind of go up and beyond with the idea of like, what does it mean to be human? Like what does it mean to be a sinner? Like what kinds of sins are okay and how the war and like there's a really interesting element of like the like judgment system like in America of like what's okay and what's not and how long do we keep people in there for what's good or for what's bad in a very interesting way. And again, I think like the music is kind of what keeps like that's what people ever want. Like that's what put everyone in was just high. And I think I even sent you like one of the songs that they had put out. And it's like each episode they had 2 songs, and almost every song in the show was like an absolute banger. Obviously, you have like Keith David. You have I think the main actress is from Mean Girls the musical. Like I think she plays the main lead in Mean Girls. Not the movie, but like the Broadway show. And obviously you have like the guy from like Beetlejuice is in it. Like you have like Jeremy Johnson. Like you have so many like of these great performers giving these really interesting songs. And it's like, but like when you listen to the lyrics, like some of these songs are like, that's a really silly. And it's like, but that was amazing. Like, I can't believe you made a song about like this really interesting thing. And how they left off the season and like the arcs of all these different characters and how creative they are about like the afterlife and like the world building that they've kind of created. Easily one of my favorite things of the year. Like very surprisingly, I was like, is it okay for this to be my favorite thing of the year? And it's like, yeah, but it's great.
Yeah, this is another one I haven't seen as we get a commenter supporting you and saying it's so good as well. But I remember you sending the song. I think I listened to it. I liked it. It was cool. One I haven't gotten around to. It's on Amazon, you said?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds... Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, it's like a really short show. It's like 8 episodes, each like 10 minutes long or something like that, 15 minutes long. It's like a really short show, and I think that's almost what makes it more impressive is like how much they fit in, like in its like really short runtime. Or I think it's 20 minutes actually. It's like a 20-minute episodes, 8 episodes long or whatever. And honestly, that'd be my own criticism, as I do think like it needed a bit more time in certain areas. Like they do a lot in 8 episodes and about like an hour and a half in its entire runtime or whatever it may be. But no, it's fun.
Yeah, well, if it's that short, I'm gonna definitely put it on the list of things to get around to and watch. It sounds super cool. I'm always a fan of stuff that plays with the afterlife and like what that looks like, and kind of changes it in different ways. Like I know a show also on Amazon, I think, that I got really into, and then the second season wasn't as good, was Upload with Robbie Amell. I thought that show was super fascinating. I know Connor watched it too. Again, season 2 was like a little bit of a downgrade, but that show was also about like playing with a conceptual idea of what the afterlife and heaven or different things means, and I think that stuff is super cool. And so this will definitely have to go on the list of things to watch for me. Yeah.
I would definitely, like, even if you don't get around to the show, I would just recommend like the music on Spotify or something, because it's like unbelievably how good some of these songs ended up being, and a small budget, I think, as well. Just like it, and I also just love stories of like a independent creator just put their heart and soul on YouTube, and people saw it and were like, yeah, we're going to give this thing a chance. I think that's always really cool to see. All right, up next we got Fallout. Now, you've said you've seen most of Fallout, right? Or like a good bit of Fallout?
I haven't finished it. I think I've got like 2 episodes left. But I wanted to bring it up just because I know Daren's a big TV guy, and I don't watch as much TV as him. And I would have felt bad not including a show of some sort. I finally started giving this one a chance because you and Connor had been talking about it. I think our other friend Luke started watching it as well, or maybe finished it. I know Connor's a big fan of the games, and I have other friends who are big fans of the games too. I've never completed a Fallout game all the way through. I think I played some of like 4 and maybe a different one at like friends' houses and stuff. But I checked it out because it was on Amazon. I had some free time, and I thought this show was so well done. I know it's one you've seen as well. Just again, sort an post-apocalyptic storyline. As someone who hadn't played as much of the game, I wasn't as bothered by like they take some liberties with like the story that they're telling, and it's not directly taken from like a lot of people's like favorite game storyline. But I think that allows them to translate it better to like a medium of television. And I've been really impressed with just how engaging it is. The characters really stand out for the most part. And as far as like, again, I haven't finished it, but as far as just video game adaptations go, this has been one of my favorites so far.
I would agree with all that. I think what makes it interesting, and again, I haven't played the games. I always like getting like a show or a movie or something that's really good, that because again, I don't know if I'll ever play the games, and like just like One Piece last year where it's like I'm never watching that show, but I get to experience a piece of it that everyone loves. With Fallout, what I think was very interesting and what Connor had said on here a good bunch is it's not even necessarily like an adaptation of one of the games. It's like a story within the game, right? It's like the next chapter of the game's canon. And I've never seen another show do that before. Like I've never seen someone just be like, yeah, it's part of the game universe. This is the next chapter within it. Like the Last of Us show, my favorite show of last year. I adore that show. I love the games. And I still think it's probably my favorite like video game adaptation. But what I think sets those two apart is like that show is literally just doing the same exact thing that the game did. Like it's like a direct adaptation besides like one episode, where this is like completely fresh. And I think for a fan of the game, you're getting a completely new story for the first time. That must be very exciting because the next game, Connor says, not coming out for another like 5 to 10 years or whatever it may be. Yeah, so I think
it's going to be a while.
Yeah, so giving, I think, the game fans something special like that is really, really cool.
That is cool. And by the way, with what you were saying about The Last of Us, that's also just a huge credit to those game developers and their level of storytelling, that they didn't have to adapt that much when making a television show.
Yeah.
And it still was like your favorite show of the year. That's crazy. But yeah, I also think it's super interesting what they're doing with the storyline and storytelling, and making it feel like it is a part of this universe and these games while being totally its own thing at the same time, and expanding upon this universe and finding its own place. I've been really impressed. Again, I've got to finish it. I'm excited to dive into those last, I think it's 2 episodes that I have, but I wanted to bring it up because it's been one of the only like new television shows that I've watched so far this year.
Yeah.
And it's been really great.
It's a fun show. I'm excited for season 2. Whenever that may be. I know these shows take forever to get new seasons out, but all right, my next one here is another kind of like post-apocalyptic project as well, and that's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, I'm not going to spoil this because I have you seen this yet or no?
No, I've been wanting to. I need to get out and see it. Opportunity hasn't came up yet, so I would appreciate no spoilers, but feel free to talk about whatever.
So Caesar's back. No, he came back from the grave. No,
no way.
It's crazy. No, I saw this. I mean, it was really, again, I talked about like the fun of the stream. Like over the last couple weeks, I've been watching through the movies. I finished it on Monday, and then I went to go see this on Tuesday, and it was a really fun journey, kind of going up to that point and getting to see one of these in theaters. And I, in the most like non-spoiler ways I can, I think they did a really excellent job, like preserving the legacy of this franchise. I think what they do with the new characters, how they have expanded this world in such a fascinating way was really interesting. And I think I almost enjoyed, it's weird because I do think it might be like the weakest, I don't know if that's a spoiler to say, out of the main ones that we've seen, but I think I almost enjoyed it the most because of like the theater experience of it all, just being able to enjoy this on the big screen, like with the reactions. Like there's so many great amazing set pieces within this that like kind of in times kind of feels like a video game where it's like, oh my gosh, character has to go through this and go, like it almost feels like certain levels of a video game. And I loved these new characters that they've added, and I think it's very hard when you have like characters as strong as like the OG 3, like Caesar. I would argue was like I'd never even seen the movies. Amazing character. Like I hadn't seen the movies for years.
One of the best movie characters ever.
Yeah, like
incredible.
years and years now, I've heard about like Caesar the Ape. Like I heard, like I know I know all these set pieces from over the years just because of how iconic it is. And I had a brilliant time with this one. And it feels like a new generation of like the apes. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, we're doing another one. It feels like, oh, this is the next chapter in this story, and I'm excited to kind of see where that goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, I've got to get out to the theater and see this.
It's fun.
Hoping to get it done like this weekend
Yeah.
sometime. I am a big fan of that Last Planet of the Apes trilogy. I never saw them before like a couple years ago when the Batman was coming out, and our friend Braden, who just showed up in the chat, loves that trilogy. It's like his favorite trilogy of all time, and he was like, "Bro, you've got to watch them." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Really like them all. I think Rise is probably my least favorite, but even that is like sets up that world and that storyline so well for the rest of the trilogy. And then Matt Reeves, my guy, comes in and just kills it in Dawn and in War. One of the best like writers in terms of working humanity into stories that you wouldn't really expect it to be there. He did the same thing with Batman.
Yeah.
So I love those movies. I am excited to see Kingdom. But I do think it will be tough just because of how iconic to a lot of people Caesar is and Koba is as a villain, and just how that trilogy kind of felt like a moment in time that it could be a struggle to get a whole new like story going here, but I'm excited to see it, and obviously you had a really good time with it. Most of the reviews have been positive, so I'm looking forward to it, and I hope they can continue doing more of these and keep the quality up to the same level.
Yeah, me too. Like they've said, like, we want to do 5 more movies after this. I was like, whoa, that's a large order that you want to live up to. But also I feel like if you like keep this level of like commitment that you've done, and I think again it's very hard to make like 4 good movies like in a row. Like I think that's a very tough like, especially because the last one came out 2017, so I think having that very large break in between movies, having a new director, having a whole new kind of like generation of casts and stuff like that, like it can be tough, and I think they like navigated that pretty well, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, like you said, like these movies have spanned over 13 years now, 3 different directors. Like, it's really impressive at how at least all of them, for the majority of people, have landed in some capacity or the other with a couple. I mean, I think Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is one of the best movies of the 2010s, like,
it's really good.
Bar, like, period, regardless of criteria or whatever. War was a great follow-up. So hopefully these movies can really expand on that and also become their own thing in certain ways. So I'm excited to get out to the theater and see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it and what you think about it. All right, our next one up here is Quiet on Set, which what an era that project was when it came out. Like like what a interesting time it was on social media when this thing was airing.
Yeah, that's a big part of why I wanted to bring this up and talk about it today, is just because of like the impact it had on specifically like our generation, even those like a little bit older than us maybe. Because like the people grew up watching all of these Nickelodeon shows and everything that was happening, and so to make this documentary and have it come out, like all my friends at college were like talking about this and like, guys, have you seen, like, we just watched the Quiet on Set episode, and it's a hard watch. It's tragic, but it's super well done in my opinion. All the Drake Bell stuff is so sad and hard to sit through, but I'm glad that like he finally got to like air some of it, like come out and share his story. I bet that, like, hopefully that was really healing for him. And again, it's not like it's a documentary series, like mini series. It's not, you know, some big event movie or some like huge tentpole like series, Game of Thrones or anything that came out,
Sure.
but I just thought it was such a like interesting cultural moment for this year that everyone was talking about it. I had to watch it. It's engaging and it is dark, but I think they do a good job of telling the story. And we don't have to touch on it for too long, but I did want
Sure.
to bring it up because I think it's a really interesting and well done thing that came out this year.
Yeah. No, for sure. I didn't end up watching this one. I'll be honest, I wasn't like a Nickelodeon kid. Like I was pretty much fully a Disney kid. But I think kind of, this was a big conversation, obviously, on the Twitter space, the TikTok space. It was massive, and it's honestly really scary. Like the things you hear about like behind the scenes, like the film industry was something that I used to want to like get into. I'm not so much anymore, but like to hear like the things that happen behind the scenes, the things that we never would have heard about if people haven't stepped up and be like, yo, this is stories that need to be told. We can't let we can't let this keep happening to people. Like we have to set a precedence that this isn't right. We can't do this. Like the stories, even like this had come out, and a lot of people like on their own was like, hey, I worked at Nickelodeon. Here's my story as well. And I think that is so important for people to feel like they can do that. Like they don't have to keep hiding all of these secrets. Obviously, like there's like your like NDAs and stuff that some people can't. But like it's it's tough for sure. And I hope everyone involved in all of this nasty stuff, like I hope they get the help that they need. Like I hope they take that step to get like, therapy, and I hope they reach out to friends. I hope friends reached out to them after hearing all this stuff, be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And again, it's scary thinking of like what happened at the other studios. Like I was a Disney kid. I damn well things happened at like the Disney lots as well. Like it's crazy.
It is for sure, and I think that was really well put. I mean, obviously, like credit to them for bringing this story to us. And a lot of times you'll get something like this because I do actually end up watching like a lot of documentaries, whether it's like true crime stuff or whatever. And sometimes you'll get something like this and it feels like half baked, or like they are just doing it for more of like the attention that it will bring them. This one did feel like they set out with the goal of letting these people tell their stories and aiming to make sure like this type of stuff doesn't happen again, which I think is really important. And I'm glad I watched it. I won't, obviously it's not something I'll probably ever be rewatching, but glad I was able to educate myself. And I mean, obviously you knew a lot of the rumors and stuff that had come out, but to really get what this show brings you was definitely necessary and cool.
And it also unfortunately seems like an ongoing story, because I heard like Dan's like suing the whatever people who are like making the documentary or whatever, which is like, come on, like I feel like don't test your luck at this point. Like I feel like just more is going to come out about you at that point. But it's sad, it sucks. And again, I hope everyone gets all the help they need and all that kind of stuff. Let's answer a couple chats here really quickly. Draven is talking about the Austin Butler new Pirates of the Caribbean rumor that's been going around. Are you a Pirates fan? Are you a fan of those movies? Is that like a casting you'd like?
Not really. I've seen a couple of them. Not the casting. I think Austin Butler's a really impressive young actor, especially after what he did in Dune to kind of transform himself and deliver one of the more interesting performances that I've seen in a while. I wasn't huge on him after Elvis, but seeing him in this movie, seeing how seriously he takes the craft, I like Austin Butler. I just never got super into the Pirates movies. I mean, I think Johnny Depp's like a great performer, questionable person, to say the least. But he's electric in that role. It just was never really something for me. But yeah, I'd be interested in Austin Butler taking over that.
Yeah, I definitely think it seems like Disney is like very dedicated to like the Pirates franchise and bringing that back. Like we had the Robbie thing that they were going for.
Margot Robbie.
Yeah, they wanted Margot Robbie for a while, and it's like, and I think she would have killed that. Like, I think Margot Robbie as a pirate is like an excellent choice, and I think Austin's another excellent choice. I do think it's one of those situations where it is going to be very hard for someone to like step into those shoes, and I don't know if it's supposed to be as like another Jack Sparrow or if it's supposed to be like a new person. I don't know. I think I've seen a couple of them years and years ago. Like, I'm not like a huge Pirates guy or anything, but it would be very interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read a couple here that we missed up top. Stranger said, I feel Homelander is getting kind of stale as a villain. Like, they keep teasing that he's going to go psycho, and they never fulfill it. Yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of in that same camp. Like, we, back when season 3 aired, we're like, oh yeah, end of season 3, he's going to go psycho, and we're going to get like end of the world Homelander or whatever, and feel like we never went that route. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. All right, we have a couple more here, just like one or two more here that we're going to be going through. And I got X-Men 97. I had to put it in here.
Look at it.
Look at it. It's so good. No, it's like, this is easily my favorite thing of the year. It's not only my favorite thing of the year, I think it's like my favorite thing in a while. Like, I can't remember the last time I've been like this into a project. I guess maybe Last of Us we had last year was like my thing, but I feel like as far as like the week drop, because it's been 9 weeks straight of like X-Men 97 and just like the weekly anticipation of the show. I don't know if I've been this into like a TV show since like early Arrowverse and my hype for like, Flash season 3 and 4 and stuff like that, like the early Arrow. And I think like its week to week formula has been so entertaining to watch. And again, I don't want to spoil it because, again, it just ended last week, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who might ultimately want to check it out at some point. But I think the animation, the music, how they treat their characters in such a beautiful way. I love the X-Men. They're like my favorite superhero team. The original show was like my first introduction to superheroes, period. So like that's like a big show for like my introduction to this entire world and stuff like that. And to see like not only do it justice, I think make the show better in every aspect. Like, I love the original show, but like it is a 90s show, and like there's certain characters I don't think get justice. There's certain storylines don't get justice, and I think how far the show is willing to go is really impressive. And I think like, Disney and like the MCU stuff, like I think sometimes with Disney it's like, oh, that they can't do this and this because it's on Disney. I think this show proved, oh no, it can't, or like they can because of how far they're willing to take these storylines. And the show gets really dark at times, and how it treats their characters and their like execution of like, these like PTSDs and like these like traumatic moments. And almost every character feels like they have kind of time to shine. Characters like Storm and Jean and Cyclops, and a lot of these characters that aren't done justice in the originals because it is the 90s. It's like women can't have personalities and all that kind of stuff. Like, well, now they can. Doing justice to that show, justice for the movies, because I like some of those movies. I don't think most of them are great though. Like, especially when it comes to like the X-Men as a brand and as characters.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great, and ultimately, like how the end of the season was amazing. Yeah, I think. Again, like I'm worried. I'm like, it's like recency biased on me. Like I'm like, I love it this much because it's so fresh in my mind. But like, I think that the show has a contender for like one of the best superhero shows out there, which is exciting. I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, I haven't seen it. Maybe I'll dive into it. I mean, I've heard so much good stuff about it. It's definitely cool to get like an animated superhero show that's, of this quality, and that like people like you are just loving so much. I think that's awesome. I mean, Young Justice had a couple really strong seasons. Kind of fell off when they tried to bring it back and everything. I remember watching like Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes like in the early 2010s was really good. So it's definitely cool that we're kind of hopefully entering an era where we can get really high quality animated superhero stuff and like shows, even aside from like the Spider-Verse movies, which have been excellent. So Yeah, I'm definitely happy for all the X-Men fans and also all the new X-Men fans that are checking out this show and falling in love.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I think, yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had. And like I said, like I think like for people that are like, sure, check it out. I check out the first two because that's kind of how they dropped them, like the first two episodes at once. I think that does a really good job at like, is this a show you're kind of interested in and stuff like that. I don't know who this guy is, but hype for The Boys season 4 next month. We'll see. We'll see. No.
Hey, I'm excited for it, Braden. I'm ready. We talked about it a little bit earlier on, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's fun. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they got in store. And our final project here, we got The Challengers. Oh boy, oh boy. New Zendaya film that came out over the last month. Has it been out about a month now? A couple weeks now at least.
Yeah.
And... Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, it came out a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I put this one on here. I saw it in theaters right before I came back home. And this movie is so unique. The energy that it is able to capture is so interesting because it's like all of this like romantic, like love triangle, crazy tension. But then there's also like these really great elements of friendship. Zendaya's excellent in it. Like I wouldn't be surprised, although it came out like earlier on in the year, if she's in Oscar nomination contention for both this and Dune 2. Like she's having an incredible year. And I think this is a really unique movie. Mike Feist is in it, who was in the new Steven Spielberg West Side Story. He's a really big like emerging star in like theater worlds and stuff like that. But he's great here as just an actor, as a tennis star. It's got a really interesting score composed by Trent Reznor, who's done a lot of great work, The Social Network, other Fincher stuff. And just really, really cool. Directed by Luca Guadagnino. I know you've seen Call Me by Your Name, correct?
I have, yeah.
Which is one of his earlier films. I need to get around to that one still, especially after watching this, because he's just a really unique filmmaking talent. I mean, I can already tell based off this one and how much people praise Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, that one's fun. Well, not fun, but
Daren and calling movies fun that aren't fun. Name a more iconic duo. But I would highly recommend Challengers. It's again just got an energy about it that I think is so unique that I really haven't seen on screen, at least in a long time. And it was super fun to see.
Yeah, it's kind of been a weird like trajectory of this movie, I feel like, because obviously it was supposed to come out last year and then it was pushed back to this year. And I remember like the like stigma around this movie for a while was just like, oh, it's like the orgy movie with like the orgy tennis movie for a while, and it was like that image was all we kind of had for a while there. And then kind of as this movie was coming out, like there was so much of a like I feel like on like energy surrounding it, like everyone saw and were like, oh, this is like really, really good. And I've meant to go see it twice now, and each time something has come around, but it looked like a lot of fun. And I think like one of the biggest conversations that's being had around it, I think is really cool. Just like Zendaya as an actress and how far she's come as a performer is so cool to see. Like someone that like grew up with her on Disney Channel, obviously like Spider-Man, and then like the Malcolm movie she did a couple years back, and then obviously like the like Euphoria stuff and Dune. And it feels like each project we see her and she's just like becoming more of a powerhouse actress. I think she's just becoming like just one of those leading ladies in Hollywood that is so impressive to see. And I know she's going to like continue to do that. Like obviously like Euphoria is really weird right now because like we don't know if that's ever coming back. Obviously she's still doing Spider-Man stuff, but like stuff like this just proves like she doesn't need any of that stuff. Like she could just kill in Hollywood by herself without. And apparently this is like her first like lead in a movie, which was very shocking for me to hear. But I guess technically she's always had like a co-lead or whatever it is. But
yeah, unless you're counting like some of the Disney Channel like stuff that she did. this is her first, like, she is the lead.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about, she's really come on. She has been a tremendous actress for, like, years now at this point. Obviously, like, coming from, she doesn't really get to showcase it as much in the Spider-Man movies, but Malcolm and Marie, even though it was a movie I didn't like that all that much because I thought it had poor writing, I thought she was excellent in it. And then, yeah, Dune, she's come on. She's so good in Dune Part 2. She's great in this movie. I'm looking forward to the continuation of her just ascending, like you said, to be one of the premier leading ladies in Hollywood.
Yeah. I think, like, Euphoria, like one of my favorite things about the show is just, like, getting to see her act. Like, there's scenes where it's just her being this, like, powerhouse actor. Like, there's a reason it keeps, like, winning awards, because, like, the act, like, as weird I think that as the environment around that show has become, like, when the actors are able to play within that show, it's really fascinating. And I know there's a scene that's got very popular from season 2 of just, like, her having, like, a breakdown, and she's like, yeah, Zendaya freaking killed it. Like, there's a reason she keeps winning, like, the Emmys or like whatever it may be. Yeah, that's all I have for this one. Is there anything else from this year that you would like to give, like, a shout out to that you've maybe seen that we don't have, like, listed here?
Yeah, Civil War was an A24 movie that came out that I thought was really, really interesting and impressive. I liked that quite a bit. I feel like we covered a lot of the bases here. Monkey Man was a interesting, like, action drama with Dev Patel, which I really, really enjoyed. I definitely got to dive into more of the TV that's come out, because that's been there's been a lot that I know people have really enjoyed. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I think that's about it for me. It just really solid movie year. I'm excited to get out and see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Furiosa's coming out later.
Yes, which week. I hear is great. From, like, everything we've heard, it sounds like it's a really fun one.
Yeah, it's gotten really good reviews. So looking forward to that and whatever else is coming out in the future.
Yeah, I think, like, I feel like we kind of had, like, all, like, opposite experiences. I think I've mainly been focusing on the shows and less on the movies, because I think Kingdom was the only, like, movie this year so far that I'm like, oh yeah, I really loved this thing. Freaking, like, the, like, Ted series came out a couple months ago, and it was like, oh yeah, I was like, oh, I'm not really looking forward to it. And I watched it, I was like, actually, this is, like, weirdly good. Like, it's like, because I think the movies are fine. Like, I'm not, like, a biggest fan of the movies, especially the second one. And this was like, yeah, it has, like, so much heart and, like, love put into it. It's like, it's kind of weird to see, like, how good that ended up being. Reacher, I guess, came out with a new season. That was solid. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have as well. But yeah, I'm very excited. I don't know where I'm going with that. Thank you, Everest, for being here today. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. For those who may not know, where can we find you? Ooh, you're muted, I think. I think you're muted.
No, that's so embarrassing.
I was like, did he do that on purpose?
No, I think I was switching, like, an earbud and it.
Okay.
Oh my God. Well, what I was saying before I messed up, I had such a great episode, and then this has to happen. But yeah, thank you for having me on. First of all, it was super fun to be here. You can find me on a YouTube channel where I upload very infrequently about movies and sports and whatever I really want to talk about. It's called Arcanize. That's ARCHANIZE. Look at that. I remembered how to spell the name. And then I'm also on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, as Arcanize YT, at Arcanize YT. So you can find me tweeting about movies and same thing, sports. NBA playoffs are going on right now, NHL playoffs. So I'm tweeting about that once in a while. And yeah, that's about it. I'm recluded a little bit from the social media sphere last couple of years, but yeah, it was so much fun to be on. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Of course. It's a long summer, so we'll have to have you back when Connor can maybe be here.
Yeah, hopefully that would be great.
It's great. It's great having you, like always. As far as me this week, same stuff as always. Monday we'll be doing our reviews for the new Doctor Who, along with the finale of X-Men '97, which I'm very happy to talk about. And then Connor should hopefully be back next Thursday, as we finally talk about I think we're ranking Superman suits throughout the year, so that should be a lot of fun to. Where does that new suit fit into like the large, the grand scheme of things?
Yeah.
But yeah, without further ado, again, thank you, Everest, for being here. It's a blast, and I will see y'all on the flip side. Bye-bye.